Hello, friends. Today we are reviewing a powerful and modern router, Xiaomi BE6500. We will check its speed, compare it with other Xiaomi models, test the signal range in comparison with the popular BE3600 and AX3000T routers, and, of course, see what possibilities the settings via the web interface and the MiHome application provide. This router is for the Chinese market, which means it should be quite long range in speed. It will be interesting, let's go. Router specifications. Name, Xiaomi Router BE6500. Model number, RN02 for the Chinese market. Processor, Qualcomm IPQ5312A53 with 4 ARM Cortex-A53 1 and 1 GHz cores. RAM 512 MB. Flash memory 128 MB. Support for MU-MIMO technology. 2 and 4 GHz 2x2. 5 GHz, 4x4 and 160 MHz. Bandwidth, up to 3.57 gigabits per second in total in all supported ranges. RJ45 ports, 2.5 gigabits per second, 4 pieces. Dual WAN and dual LAN support. IPTV support is present. Game mode support is present. Theoretical peak speed in a wireless network is 3.57 gigabits per second, 6 front FEM modules amplify the signal. The dimensions of the device are 319 by 47 by 242 mm, power consumption 12 volts 2 amperes. Power input size 4.0 by 1.7 mm, MLO, for KQAM and OFDMA technologies, mesh networks, smart home system integration, MiHome mobile application and Xiao AI voice assistant. The router is positioned as an above-average segment, so the router itself is larger than its cheaper counterparts, namely BE3600 and AX3000T. Regarding delivery, the parcel arrived to me in 10 days, so I can recommend the seller. On the front side you can see a color image of the router, just below its model BE6500 and support for Wi-Fi 7. On the back side are the main features and advantages. But since the router is for the Chinese market, the translation must be done through Google. But we can understand the characteristics without translation. The router itself takes up all the space in the box. The seller also did not forget to put an adapter for a European socket. We put our router aside. Under it we will find a small instruction, you can put it aside. I will tell you everything without it. In the upper compartment we have a power supply and an Ethernet cable. The length of the Ethernet cable is 1 meter, like the router, it is made in black. The same color and the power supply. The plug is quite specific, long and thin, 4 by 1 and 7 millimeters. The adapter produces 12 volts with a current of up to 2 amperes. Let's move on to the appearance of the router itself. It is somewhat similar to its more budget brother, namely BE3600. But here we already have 6 antennas and because of this the dimensions of the router have become a little larger. In the upper part we have 6 antennas that are not adjustable in any way, but one of them has the inscription Wi-Fi 7. The router itself is rather graphite black, the surface is matte, but at the same time fingerprints remain on it. The brand inscription is made in golden orange. Under it is an oblong LED of the router status. If it interferes, it can be disabled in the settings. Below, under the transport film, there is a glossy strip. Stylishly modern, but it is better not to touch it with your hands. The body is trapezoidal in shape, expanding towards the bottom for better stability. In the lower and upper parts there are slots for air circulation. Also at the bottom is the name of the default access point, MAC address and serial number of the device. In order not to interfere with cooling, the front and rear edges protrude slightly beyond the case and act as router legs. The back is completely perforated for better router cooling. Despite its size, there are still 4 LAN ports, a cable from your provider or even from 2 providers can be connected to any of the ports, the router itself will detect it as a WAN port. Why 2? Because the router can have 2 WAN connections, convenient for reserving an internet channel if you have the ability to connect 2 different providers. On the left side there is a button for quick connection to the mesh network. We will configure it in the following videos. Behind the Ethernet ports there is a reset button and a port for connecting the router's power. Setting up this router, even if it is intended for the Chinese market and all the settings are in Chinese, is not difficult. Let's try to figure it out. We connect the router's power supply, the indicator LED lights up orange. After a while, it will start blinking smoothly. Now we just need to connect the cable from our provider. You can connect to any port, the router itself will determine which port will be LAN and which will be WAN. I still prefer to connect WAN to port number 1. After that, we have two options, set up via a smartphone or a laptop. Let's start with using a smartphone. First, we connect to an open Wi-Fi network called RN02 4 characters, then open the notification from our router in a pop-up window. We agree with all the proposed points and click the blue button. If we need separate Wi-Fi networks for 5 GHz and 2.4 GHz, we can disable network aggregation. To do this, click on the switch at the top. We immediately get the settings for 2 and 4 and 5 GHz networks. But I will set up a combined 2 and 4 and 5 GHz network. Then we can change the name of our Wi-Fi network and enter the password. After that, press the blue button and remember the login parameters. If everything went well, the indicator LED will change color to blue, which means there is an internet connection. If the color is orange, then something went wrong and attention is required to the router. In most cases, the router will configure itself and connect to the provider automatically. Now we just need to find the changed Wi-Fi network in the list and enter the previously set password. Now we have access to the internet. We can quickly manage the router through a mobile application, just install and open MiHome. My router was found automatically the first time I started it. If this did not happen, click the plus at the top of the router and select Add Device. Below select the Router tab and find our Xiaomi BE6500 router in the list. After entering the administrator password, which currently matches the Wi-Fi password, you can select a virtual room and rename the router as desired. The application displays information about the network connection and the current data transfer rate. The router supports the Wi-Fi 7 standard and mesh networks. A special button is provided for adding new devices to the mesh network. List of connected devices. In the Connected Devices section, you can see detailed information on the amount of traffic used, connection time, current download and upload speeds, and signal strength. You can also set a speed limit for each device, change its type and brand. Basic Wi-Fi settings. The main screen of the application displays the name and password of the Wi-Fi network, and the ability to create a QR code for quick connection. In the settings, you can manage 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz frequencies, change the network name and password. Additionally, advanced Wi-Fi options are available. Enable or disable MU-MIMO, configure compatibility with Wi-Fi 5, disable quick connection of devices. The 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz settings are identical. In the 5 GHz settings, you can also enable 160 MHz support. Network connection settings. You can select the type of connection to the provider, standard mode, access point mode, repeater mode. If necessary, you can manually switch the WAN port, which is convenient if you have two providers. The network information section displays the IP address received from the provider. Network management options. The router allows you to set up an automatic or one-time reboot. However, given the stability of Xiaomi devices, this function may not be particularly useful. It is also recommended to change the administrator password, making it different from the Wi-Fi password. After changing the settings, you can immediately reboot the device. Firmware update. Updates are installed in one click through the built-in assistant. At the time of writing the review, the current firmware version is 1.0.39. You can start the update manually or set up an automatic update. By default it is performed at 4 AM. Additional functions. Reset settings allows you to return the router to the factory state. LED indicator control, you can disable or set a work schedule. IPTV, disabled by default, but can be activated if necessary. Port aggregation, combines two ports to increase the connection speed up to 2 gigabits per second. QoS, quality of service, allows you to set priorities for different types of traffic and limit the speed of the guest network. Wi-Fi optimization, helps improve connection quality, such as changing the channel to reduce interference. Wi-Fi timer, allows you to automatically turn the wireless network on and off. Guest network, you can set a name, password, and operating time. Parental control, restricts access of certain devices to unwanted content. Host settings, allows you to bind IP addresses to domain names. Hacking protection, an additional level of security. WPS, the ability to quickly connect compatible devices. In addition, there is the ability to create a secure internet. Enable the firewall, and block various sites with unwanted content. Let's figure out how to manage the router via the web interface. When connecting to Wi-Fi, Windows immediately identifies the network as the latest Wi-Fi 6 standard and notifies you about it. By default, the device uses an IP address in the range of the 31st subnet. To enter the administrative panel, enter 192.168.31.1 in the browser. The default login is admin, and the password is the same as that set for the Wi-Fi network. We will look at how to change it later. The interface is in Chinese, but this can be easily fixed. In the Chrome browser, just right-click and select the translation into the desired language. The main window displays the device status, the network name and its password, as well as a list of connected clients. By clicking on the list of connected devices, you can not only view them, but also disable internet access for a specific device, leaving it on the local network. By clicking on the globe icon, you can see the internet connection parameters and configure download and upload speed limits. In the main settings section, you can split the 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz ranges into separate networks, select channels, their width and signal strength. Here you can also enable or disable MLO, multi-link operation, a function that allows Wi-Fi 7 devices to use several frequency ranges at once to increase throughput. A Wi-Fi 5 compatibility mode is also available for older devices. Enabling TWT, target wake time, will allow smartphones to save battery power by exchanging data with the router less often. It is recommended to leave MLO and connect happily activated. And of course the multiple input and multiple output MIMO function. Internet connection settings allow you to change the connection type from DHCP to PPPoE, set a static IP, install custom DNS servers and change the MAC address. This is important, since some providers bind the connection to the MAC address, and a new router may require activation from the provider. You can also switch the operating mode to a wired or wireless Wi-Fi repeater and configure the WAN port. In this section, you can also manage the IPv6 protocol. I recommend disabling it. By default, the IPv6 firewall is disabled, but you can enable it if necessary. The WAN port can be left in automatic mode or set a static port manually. The security section allows you to restrict access to the router admin panel only via a wired connection. After the first login, I strongly recommend changing the administrator password so that it differs from the Wi-Fi network password. Here you can also set white lists of devices that are allowed to access the control panel. In the LAN settings section, you can change the IP subnet, set a range of local IP addresses, and assign static IPs to specific devices by binding to a MAC address. Let's move on to the system settings. Here you can control the indicator on the front panel, check and update the firmware, view the system logs, reboot the device, or create backup copies of the settings. This section also allows you to install plugins, select the time zone and time. In the advanced settings, there is a QoS menu that allows you to set traffic priorities. This is useful in cases where you need to limit the download and upload speed for individual devices or a guest network. In the DDNS section, you can select one of 4 providers of this service and activate dynamic DNS. Port forwarding settings allow you to set rules for the internal network, and enabling DMZ will create access for a specific device from the external network. If you use VPN, you can configure the corresponding parameters here. If you have 2 providers, the dual WAN function will help combine their speeds up to 2 gigabits per second. You can configure the main and backup channels, which is especially useful for a backup connection. This is a significant advantage for a router. Old Xiaomi models had problems with IPTV that required reflashing, but now the setting is available directly in the web interface. You can also activate LAN port aggregation, theoretically increasing the speed to 3.5 gigabits per second, which is useful for working with home file storage. Gaming mode allows you to select a priority LAN port to minimize delays and increase speed. The router also supports work in a mesh network in both wired and wireless versions. How to set this up, I described in detail in the previous video. The device management menu allows you to change its name, update the firmware, download the MiHome app for mobile control, reboot the router, or exit the current session. Speed test. Let's measure the speed. According to my tariff plan, the speed should not exceed 1 gigabit per second. There is no point in checking the wired connection, but Wi-Fi is a different matter. We check and see that the speed is practical, which is declared by the tariff, 898 megabits per second for download and 896 megabits per second for return. I will tell you the ideal result of Wi-Fi in this router. But I checked with my smartphone. The bottleneck here is of course the smartphone, but 300 megabits per second is also a very super result for my not new smartphone. We have two computers at our disposal. On the first of them we will configure and launch the ePerf server, and the second will be used to measure the data transfer speed. Since both devices are on the same local network, this will allow us to accurately determine the speed of the direct connection and data transfer between them, excluding the influence of external factors. Let's start with testing the wired connection. Both computers, the server and the client, are connected to the router via an Ethernet cable. This ensures a stable and high-speed connection. After setting up the server, we run the command to connect and measure the data download speed. The test results in a data transfer speed of about 950 megabits per second for both download and upload. Then we run the reverse test using the R key, which changes the direction of data transfer. In this case, the speed drops slightly and reaches 855 megabits per second. These are the results for single stream transfer, where data is transferred through one communication channel. For a more detailed analysis, we move on to multi-stream data transfer. We run the test using 5 threads. The total speed reaches 966 megabits per second for both download and upload. We repeat the reverse test with the R key for multi-stream transfer. In this case, the total speed is 864 megabits per second for both download and upload. Thus, the tests conducted demonstrate the high efficiency of a wired connection in a local network. A slight decrease in speed during reverse testing and multi-threaded transfer may be due to the peculiarities of the equipment or network settings, but in general the results remain stable and close to the maximum values for this type of connection. Now we move on to testing the data transfer speed via Wi-Fi. To do this, disconnect the Ethernet cable from the client computer, leaving the server still connected to the router via a wired connection. This will allow us to evaluate how effectively the wireless connection works in comparison with the wired one. As you can see, Windows considers the Wi-Fi channel connection speed to be 2400 megabits per second or 2 and 4 gigabits per second. This is 2.5 times more than a wired connection. We run the command to connect and measure the data download speed via Wi-Fi. But the server has an Ethernet card with a speed of 1000 megabits, 1 gigabit per second, so I will not be able to check the reality of the speed of 2 and 5 megabits per second at home. The results show that the data transfer rate is 935 megabits per second for both download and upload. This value was obtained with a single-threaded data transfer. Next, we perform the reverse test using the R key, which changes the direction of data transfer. In this case, the speed increases slightly and reaches 938 megabits per second. These results demonstrate that the Wi-Fi connection provides stable and high speed even with a single-threaded transfer. For a more in-depth analysis, we move on to multi-threaded data transfer. We run the test using 5 threads. The total speed in this case reaches 963 megabits per second for download and 945 megabits per second for upload. We repeat the reverse test with the R key for multi-threaded transfer. In this case, the total speed increases to 948 megabits per second for download and 946 megabits per second for upload. We run the test using 10 threads. The total speed reaches 970 megabits per second for downloading and 946 megabits per second for uploading. But in the first test I saw a speed higher than 1 gigabit per second, 1 and 13 gigabits per second. Most likely, the limitations are in the server's network adapter, not in Wi-Fi. We repeat the reverse test with the R key for multi-threaded transfer. In this case, the total speed increases to 954 megabits per second for downloading and 943 megabits per second for uploading. These results are impressive. The data transfer speed via Wi-Fi is practically not inferior to a wired connection. The indicators of 950 megabits per second, almost a gigabit connection via Wi-Fi, this is a truly outstanding result for a router, which demonstrates its high performance and ability to maintain a stable connection even with intensive multi-threaded data transfer. A wired connection to a router is really a thing of the past. Thus, the tests conducted confirm that modern Wi-Fi technologies are capable of providing speeds not only comparable to wired connections, but even 2.5 times higher, which makes them an excellent solution for high-speed data transfer. I'll reveal a little secret why it's worth taking a Xiaomi router for the Chinese market. The secret is that there are no restrictions on the transmitter power, as in Europe. There are also no strong restrictions on the channels of use, which allows you to choose a channel that will be inaccessible to European routers and thereby reduce interference from neighboring routers. We will conduct a range test with 2 routers, new products of last year. Namely, the Xiaomi BE3600, which showed brilliant results in terms of price/quality, as well as speed and range. And which was my main router in my home network for almost a year. Then there is also a long-range, but cheaper Xiaomi AX3000T router, which I had as a repeater in the mesh network. The routers will be located in the same place, and I will turn them on in turn, so as not to overlap each other's channel. I will measure the signal moving away from them. Now I am in the next room. Here I have crossed one room between me and the router's 2 walls. Now I have gone down to the first floor and am in the farthest room, between us 2 walls and a ceiling. I went outside to measure moving away from the house. Between us there will be 1 wall of the house or a window. This is what the signal information looks like 15 meters from the house. I move a little further than 25 meters. At 35 meters the signal strength is like this. At 55 meters. The maximum distance was 65 meters. As you yourself could see, the signal strength at the beginning was almost identical for all routers, but with the range it began to change a little, where in general our hero of the review confidently led. There is nothing to even talk about the speed of this router. It is really top. For the first time in a router for home use, I saw a Wi-Fi data transfer rate higher than 1 gigabit per second. With this router and a good network card in a PC or laptop, you definitely won't need wires. The next step is 10 gigabit network cards or laptop ports. But for home use, 1 gigabit is more than enough. Regarding the range, you could also see everything yourself. Not every router can break through 2 and 4 GHz at a distance of meters and 5 GHz at a distance of meters. For an apartment, this router is enough to provide coverage even in distant rooms. But here you also need to consider the wall material. For example, on the first floors of a high-rise monolithic building, due to the thickness of the concrete walls, the signal is very weak. For a private 2-story house, I still recommend the bundle that I decided to keep for myself, the main Xiaomi BE6500 router and a wired mesh Xiaomi BE3600. Regarding the stability of operation or ref flashing, I will say this: I set it up and forgot about it. Not a single freeze during the entire time of operation, and I have not had this for more than a year. The setup, as you yourself could see, is very simple. From the mobile application, everything is done very quickly and easily. You can also do everything from the web interface thanks to the Google Translator. All the points are clear and quickly configured. The capabilities of port aggregation, guest network settings, IPTV and VPN connection are all in the stock firmware. Therefore, I do not even see the point in ref flashing to a non-native one. The router offers many options for flexible network configuration, which makes it a convenient solution for home use. I hope the video was useful for you and was able to reveal all the capabilities of this router. Please do not forget to like the video if you liked it and subscribe to the channel. In the following videos, I will show you how to quickly and easily build a seamless Wi-Fi network from these 3 routers from Xiaomi. Also on the channel you can skip other interesting videos about smart and not so smart home systems. You will find all the links to the products in the description under the video. There is also a link to a group in Telegram where you will find not only new products on the smart home system but also interesting smart home products, discounts, coupons, and promotions. There is also a link structured by Forum Topics Telegram group for communication and solving issues related to smart home. All the best to everyone. Peaceful skies and good. Bye.